Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, broadcasting to you from beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. And I'm here with my good friends, Catherine and Laurie and Sandy. And today we're going to continue our talk about Your Soul's Plan by Robert Schwartz. And this week we are continuing to talk about chapter 6, which refers to or talks about death of loved ones and why we might plan lives and expect to have death happen in our lives earlier than when we die. Either we lose somebody close to us or we experience a lot more death in our lives than average. But anyway, why would we do that to ourselves? That's kind of the thing. The premise of this book is that we plan our lives before we come here. And so there's a lot of talk of, there's talk with channels and mediums, discussing, Robert kind of interviews them to talk about their souls and the plans that they made before they came here. But before we get going with that, let me go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves, and then we can jump into this conversation.
Guess I'll go. Good morning, Sandy Root here in not sunny Miami Beach. It's a very cloudy, rainy day. I think we have a tropical storm coming today. Thought I'd give you the weather forecast. Good morning. Good to see you all. And yeah, it's been a couple weeks, so excited to jump back in with you.
Good morning. It's Catherine Clement in Shawnee, Oklahoma. And I'll go ahead and introduce, we also have Laurie Evans from Denver, Colorado with us.
Awesome. I'm glad to have you guys on here with me because I'm only about half awake this morning and trying to gather my thoughts together, and they're just not being coherent. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, this chapter, Robert is speaking with, at the beginning of the chapter, I think actually it's the same person throughout the chapter, which her name is Valerie. And Valerie has had two pretty significant people in her life die at, when she's pretty young, or not a child, but when she's young. And so it kind of talks about that. And the first one that talks about is her son, who dies suddenly of an accidental overdose. And then her experience with that. And then also then she talks about another person that died in her life 12 years before, which was her fiance at the time. And both of these deaths that happened in her life were just really sudden, and it was just a really hard experience for her. And so when they were talking, Robert, he is interviewing her soul through a medium, and they're talking about why in the world that she would have chosen to have these deaths happen early in her life. And and it's just really fascinating, some of the things that they discuss with this, and because the son, they talk to the son who's passed over and to the fiance, and it was just really fascinating. You guys read the chapter? What were thoughts that came to you? I'm sorry, my brain's not with me this morning.
Yeah, it's a very interesting chapter, I think. Well, I think they all are, but this is something that a lot of people are dealing with right now, even more so than normal, I would say. And one of the things that I wish I could, I swear I'm going to have to start buying the books. I say that every time. I'm going to have to buy the hard copy so that I can highlight and bring out these quotes, because there was this one quote, and I even listened to it about 3 different times so I'd remember it. I still don't remember it, but it was something along the lines of, what an incredibly powerful being it takes to plan a life, come in and completely mask your memory of those plans, and then live it out. And I think that in this we were talking a little bit beforehand how it's been kind of a week of chaos for a lot of people. And I don't know if it's the planetary alignment or the apocalypse or what the hell is going on here, but there's just a lot of shit going on, and we need to, in the midst of the chaos, there's, thankfully for me, there is a place of calm that I can go to. Sometimes I have to remind myself to go there, but at least it's there for me. And I'm quite sure I came to this life to learn compassion just because of some of the challenges that I've faced. And I certainly have a tremendous amount of compassion right now for the people that aren't able to find that spot of calm in the midst of this chaos.
Yeah, that's so important to be able to find a peaceful, just a calm spot where you can just let go of all of the stuff that's, bothering you. And, even if you can only let it go for just a moment to allow yourself that peace, it's definitely helpful. And I can't imagine what some of the people are going through right now. I heard a story this week where, this operator of an excavator, there was a terrible, terrible accident. He lost track of the young kid that was working down in the ground in the pit, and reached down with his excavator and caught him by the head, took his head right off. And I can't even imagine the everything that guy's going through, and the family and everybody that's involved with it. It's just excruciating to think about it. And this crazy week, crazy months that are happening right now in the world, and there's so much pain, and and I feel like it's good that we're reading this book, because for me it's helped a lot, just thinking about, okay, what if, if this is true, this whole idea of the book is, that we're kind of coming here into a virtual reality, if you will, and coming here to experience all the different aspects of life but yet we are immortal souls, that we go on forever. There is no death. It's just an illusion being here. And that it helps. I hope that's what it is. I hope that this isn't just it and all there is, and that this is just an experience that we're going through, and and some of it really sucks, but some of it's really wonderful too. It's kind of both. And but for when we go through those really tough times in our lives, and I feel like it is just helpful to think, okay, this isn't it. This isn't all there is. There's more to it, and this is going to pass, and then something better is going to happen. So, and I also feel like if we plan what we're doing here, and that's kind of, that's what they're suggesting. Robert's talking to Valerie Stoll, and also to Dustin. Dustin was the fiance that got killed, and what was her son's name? I can't remember her son's name. It's not in these close little pages right here, but her son had died of the accidental overdose, and just the fact that she could connect with them through the channel was just amazing and healing for her. And so, I mean, just the idea that, you know, they talk about earlier in the earlier chapters that there's just this tiny little veil of, it's so much thinner than we all think it is between this world and the other side, and that we actually have a lot more access to it than we think we do. And you know, I was kind of, you know, sometimes I have like these, you know, conversations in my head. I feel like I'm talking to someone else about whatever's going on in my life. And it makes me, you know, I've always thought, oh, it's just me, another part of my personality or whatever. But what if it isn't, you know? I mean, and I know, Catherine, you have a lot of experience with that. Me, not so much. For me, it just feels like it's thoughts in my head, but maybe it's more. And sometimes when I have these conversations, I feel comfort, and then I'm thinking of a particular person in my life that's already over there, like my grandmother or my friend that passed away when I was young, or, you know, I mean, it's, maybe I'm actually talking with them and I just don't hear the sound of their voice. I don't know, but just the possibility that that is what's going on takes,
Ding, 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 ding.
yeah, okay. So it takes that edge, or the you know, I don't know, when you just accept that that's the reality, then okay, then that person isn't really gone. And you know, so even though we've had this horrible pain experience here in the now, it you know, it's not permanent, or it's just like an experience, like watching TV, if you will. I mean, it's not, because we're so immersed in it. But at the same time, you know, I mean, we watch movies and television and all these things. We know those are totally not real, even though they elicit emotional responses. And, you know, maybe our whole reality is just a really deep virtual reality experience, and it's all really okay. And I don't know. We talk a lot also about, you know, would we really want to do this to ourselves, you know? But there was a point in one of the chapters where he was like, eternity is a really, really long time, you know? So we're doing this because what else is there to do? Kind of a attitude, I guess. And um, I don't know. It was just, but I felt like, you know, with Valerie, she just got that comfort being able to communicate directly, or although it wasn't directly, I mean, it's still through the medium. And, you know, but how is that really much different than if we're talking to somebody just directly ourselves, and we think we're, you know, that person is the one that comes to mind when we're having this conversation. It could be that, right? You know, so. I know I've kind of wandered around in circles here, so jump out, guys.
There was an actress that passed away, I believe it was yesterday or day before yesterday, I can't remember exactly, but she was from the 60s, and she was on Game of Thrones. I've never seen that show, even though most people would think that I would know that show, and I would even think I would know that show, but I just didn't have access to the channel it was on. Um, anyway, she made the comment. I'm gonna have to find her picture and make a meme of it, because she made the comment that she always preferred to play the bad guys, or the, you know, the bad roles, because they were so much more interesting than the good roles. And I immediately thought, you know, how many times have we asked on this program, you know, why would a soul choose to come in and just play a role of utter chaos and diabolicalness? And it could just be that it's more interesting, you guys. Seriously. It could just be more fun. And but in all seriousness, I know that this entire subject is completely taboo to a large population of of the world. And it just blows my mind, because this concept and concepts similar to it are the only thing that gets me through this life. Like, I just can't imagine. I do cling to those peaceful moments. And before we came on, we were talking a little bit this last weekend. On Sundays, I go to a healing circle at a peace sanctuary here, and there's a lot of wildlife, and it's just a very grounding and connecting sort of loving experience. But this past weekend, it was just completely mind-blowing and so magical that if there hadn't have been other people there, I would have sworn that I just imagined it all or hallucinated it or something. But thank God there were other people there. So the things that we witnessed really happened. But I will never, nobody that was there will ever forget that day. And that day, and there were some people there that day that, had some very troubling things happen in their life in the past, and trying to recover from things. And I think that day will be, it was a pivot for people that were there. Like, it's a day that all of us can cling to, and hopefully always keep that magic in our lives, even in, no matter what else is going on. And that's kind of how this book is for me, this concept that, there's a reason behind all this. And it's not just, because there's some pretty startling occurrences happening and statistics, and I try to stay away from the news, but I happen to be in a household that watches quite a bit of news, so I wind up hearing it, because one of my superpowers is my hearing. And but also, once in a while, I was looking at how many different species, animal species, insect species, different things have gone extinct just in the past not so long. And I was thinking, wow, these are creatures that we created, that God created, to be here for our enjoyment and our environment and stuff. And we've really just kind of screwed things up pretty big, you guys. Like, I don't know. I mean, I believe in redemption. I think we can turn things around, but then you think, okay, but obviously for shit to go this big and this wrong in so many ways, this shit was planned. It would have to be. And so there's purpose behind that, and there's purpose behind each person who is suffering or has experienced a loss. There's purpose behind that. And so to me, that gives me great comfort, unbelievable comfort. Not that people are suffering, but that at least they're not suffering needlessly. And I don't know why we would need such experiences to learn, because I feel quite confident that we've all done this many, many times. So sometimes I do wonder, if it's comes down to it's more fun to play a certain part. Like, I mean, how many times can you learn a certain lesson? How deeply can you learn compassion? How many lifetimes do you need to learn that? And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, and in this chapter alone, it's talking about how Valerie has come down and had this kind of similar experience in multiple lives, and like, she lost her fiance in a previous life as well, when he was going to war and on the front lines, and they got married right before he went, and she basically, just fell apart when that happened. And because it's interesting that they're talking to her soul, and her soul is talking like we as in all the personalities that her soul has been in her lifetime. And yet she also, the soul talks about her in the third person as well, of, you know, Valerie is, you know, this, and she's trying to do that. And but anyway, it's fascinating because she's been here before, and she keeps going through the same kind of experience because, and they're saying it's because that she didn't handle it so well. And so she keeps trying so that she can potentially be better at it the next time, you know. And of course, in this particular life, when she loses her fiance, she handles it a whole lot better. And then, you know, when her son passes away, you know, she's unhappy. Obviously, she's sad about it, but yet at the same time, she's trying to learn from it, or trying to, you know, help other people through it versus just being hysterical about the whole situation. And which I can't even imagine not being hysterical if you lose your son at a young age. So it's, yeah, I mean, just that whole concept of coming back here over and over again just to make it more interesting, or you know, just because they're just trying to do it a different way. I mean, you know, I mean, isn't that what like video games are? Is basically you go there and you keep dying until you figure it out. You know, you keep getting tortured or
Exactly.
you know, I mean, this is just like a more immersive experience than the average video game. Yeah. I don't know. We take it so seriously, and maybe we don't need to. Maybe it just needs to be like a video game, and I don't know. Of course, when I play video games, I don't take it serious at all. You know, I know there's a lot of people who get real serious about it, and but I'm totally not. I'm one of those ones that will play the four-wheel and off-road one and keep driving off the cliff just to see what will happen, you know. So, you know, I don't know. I just keep crashing into stuff. So, but I don't feel like I'm that way in life, you know. I don't know, but I thought it was real interesting how one of the concepts I think Robert has kind of touched on was this idea of the personality being there on the other side after we pass away. And that's kind of always been a thing that I wondered, is if we reincarnate, we don't remember anything when we come here, is do we remember what we were before or when we were here? You know, because I've always, or not always, but just kind of had it in my head that when we die, we're just gone, you know. And but if we still have our personality when we get over to the other side, and then all of a sudden remember everything too of all the previous personalities, then yeah, I mean, it definitely makes me feel more confident that even though I'm not here, I'm still going to be there somewhere, or I'm still going to be some aspect of what it feels like to be me in this life. So that's a comfort. And you know, because I kind of always wondered that, you know, like, am I just going to forget? You know, then it really seems like it would be for naught, right? What do you think, Sandy?
That reminded me, I was reading, and where was that? Some group this week. You know, I think there's a lot of, when we're children, when we come in, we remember past lives. It was a chat in one of my acupuncture groups, and I forget how it came up, but somebody was talking about how her son said something like, "Oh, that's your friend," to every time he saw a Buddha statue. He was like 2 years old, and he'd always tell his mom, "Oh, that's your friend. There's your friend again." And it started this thread of other people sharing how their children would say certain things like, "Oh yeah, you knew him from this time," or something. Like they would have these conversations like they knew the people that they came into their lives, like they knew their parents from another lifetime or their friends. Like they would tell their parents stories of like, "Oh yeah, you knew the blah 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 back in the day, and you were on a horse carriage or something." So it's like, I think, and I've heard these sort of things before, how some kids, you know, before we get conditioned and everything, I think we do come in with those memories of our past lives, and the people around us who we come in with, you know, we may remember them. Oh yeah, that my mom was blah, 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 you know, back then. But, you know, once we're conditioned, then we start to forget. But I think we come in with some, you know, sort of memory of where we came from or what our past lives were. So it was interesting to hear all these acupuncture colleagues talk about their children remembering certain things that they would say, and like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? But then, you know, they're honoring that, like, tell me more, you know. And I think a lot of parents shut that off, like, oh no, what are you talking about? That's crazy talk, you know. But if we actually encourage them to speak about these things, and who knows what we can really remember if we encourage the young to remember these memories instead of, I think we're used to saying, well, that's nonsense, and then we just shut it off, you know. So yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Kids are great, aren't they? Like, they're just, I remember when I was a kid, of course, everybody thought it was my imaginary friend, but he wasn't imaginary to me at all. And I absolutely demanded that a place at the table be set for him and a chair be set for him because he was there to me. And you know, my grandmother always raised me that you, even if, you know, you had friends over or whatever, you didn't never took a bite of food without offering somebody else food. You know, if you only had one thing, then you broke it into 5 pieces if you had 5 friends there because you didn't take a bite of food without sharing. And so I was adamant that, you know, there was going to be a place set at the table and food on the plate and everything for this person that I could see that they couldn't, and or that my grandmother couldn't. And so thank God I don't know what would have happened if she had to put her foot down about that. I probably would have refused to eat or something. But it's amazing how kids can sense things. I still can't remember the name of that book. I mentioned it, I think, on a previous program where kids are born talking about, you know, going down in the war or whatever. And actually, David Rippey, the author that we interviewed a couple weeks ago, he was talking about how more and more kids these days under hypnosis are coming forth with lifetimes that we would remember, those of us who are still living now, but children coming in and talking about lives where they're going out in the 60s or the 40s or, you know. So it's, to me, those sorts of things would be more, you'd be able to verify that easier as opposed to, you know, a report of a lifetime back in the 1800s or something where we don't have a way to go back and check for facts. But I think that it's fascinating, some of the stories that come forth. I am still surprised that we don't hear about lifetimes on other planets or as different creatures, or because I don't understand why we only get stories about Earth lifetimes.
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's harder to comprehend from our perspective, but or to understand the experiences. Or it seemed like, and where was it? Was it when we were talking to David about that? Didn't we touch on that with him a little bit? But I don't, about possible lives on other planets, or seems like we touched on that. Remember?
Yeah, I think he did. I don't think he had a lot of, I think he had heard of some stories of some other, but it's not prevalent. You know what I mean? Like you would think maybe the flat earthers are right, guys.
What? um, I'm not sure. Maybe.
If the sky is truly a hologram, that would account for there not being anything other than Earth lives being reported.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
I
That's
don't know
interesting.
either. I honestly don't know.
I mean, I don't know what I'm kind of curious about. Of course, I haven't gotten all the way through the book. I was wondering if maybe he um, interviews a soul that was an animal in a previous experience. I mean, you were talking about the animals this weekend, or yeah, on Sunday, with your healing experience with the bear and the horses, and I'm like, oh wow, and I sometimes look at my dog and I'm like wondering, okay, are you someone that I knew, that has passed, or I mean, because I know we talked a little bit about animals the last time of when we were talking about death of loved ones and how, I mean, they have such much shorter lifespans than we do, and so how they could easily be um, someone that is passed on and reincarnated as an animal. And we were talking about dogs in particular, and and how they're just completely unconditional love, and no matter what happens or what's going on or whatever, they're still coming to you, wagging their tail, perfectly happy in love with you, and with no indication of being upset if you give them a harsh word, or they just keep coming back for more of whatever you have to offer, no matter who you are. And I've seen people that have dogs that are just horribly, horribly abusive to them, and the dogs just keep coming back, wagging their tail. And I'm just like, my God, what kind of, maybe that's like the most evolved soul that comes back as a human pet, and or a more evolved soul, because I know with cats they're a little bit more standoffish and have a different attitude about life. But I don't know. It makes you kind of wonder, but I am curious. I don't know. Maybe Robert talks about it in another book. If people that maybe he's channeled and then found out that oh yeah, your dog is one of your soul people from the previous life, or that's your spirit guide, or I don't know. Interesting concepts for sure.
Yeah, I think I've heard things like, well, I've heard things like as a human, you would never go back to being an animal. Like there's sort of like a hierarchy of souls you incarnate into, but who knows? And it's interesting talking about, lifetimes not on Earth, because I had an intuitive reading once, and she was like, you're from the Crystal Kingdom. You came here for like they sent you from the Crystal Kingdom as the only one to come to Earth in this time. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But I'm like, I want to know more about this Crystal Kingdom. Where am I from? And what is this? And, but it resonates. I'm like, it makes sense. But who knows? Yeah, it's interesting. Because I meet people too who say they're from, I guess more like, I don't know, people who are, I wouldn't say more evolved, but I don't know, they're like spiritual kind of leaders who speak on this planet, and they say, yeah, that they know that they're from a different planet, or they're Pleiadians, or from somewhere else, and came here to be light beings on Earth for us right now in the human form. So yeah, there's so much, and we just don't know. How do we find out? Can go on and on. It's funny, yesterday I had a patient. I've been seeing these little salamanders in my apartment a lot. Well, I leave the balcony door open for my cat to go in and out, so I guess, but I never seen them here. For the years I've been here, I've never seen these little salamanders, and we're starting to find them randomly around my apartment, like one here, one there, and then my cat would sometimes chase them. but usually I'd be able to catch them and put them back outside. And I haven't seen one in a while, but then yesterday one was in my office, and my patient was like, jumped up like, there's a salamander on the wall. And I'm like, that's weird. Did it like come with me in my bag from my house? So I was looking up salamander symbolism, but my first thought was like, she said something about, I don't know, his lives or something. I'm like, oh, maybe he wants to evolve into being a human, and he's watching me do acupuncture so he could be an acupuncturist when he comes back. So we were joking around about this salamander coming back as a human acupuncturist. But who knows? It's crazy to think about.
Well, I've also heard that theory that animals are, that there's a hierarchy as far as incarnation, and that you evolve past being an animal. But I do not agree with that, and it does not resonate with me. And this past weekend is a perfect example of that. Unless you have ever seen a wild bear, well, not a wild bear, it's a bear that has lived with humans, but I mean, it lives on its own acre in the woods. It's not like a bear in a cage in a zoo or something. We were having ceremony saging each other, and this bear literally saged itself. So to me, it felt like, an elder spirit there with us, either coming through that bear, or that bear had a lifetime as a human and had actually done that saging ceremony before and was doing it now as a bear. So, I mean, it was really fucking magical, you guys. Not many people get to see a bear sage itself.
Yeah, I sometimes feel like, I look at certain animals that are just seem like they're at such peace. Like yesterday I drive in and out of this gravel quarry all day long, and it's right next to the dump, for the south side of Indy. And so there's a lot of birds that fly over. But I was just watching these two just enormous, I mean, I don't know, their wingspan looked like it was just, I don't know what they were, buzzards, or I don't know if buzzards can fly. Whatever they were really big birds. And but I could see them way up at a distance in the sky, and just watching them just kind of, coasting around, and I'm like sitting there going, I know that those birds have got to be well fed because they're right next to the dump, and for them that's their, complete, just buffet. And and I know in the wild sometimes the birds will fly around and they're looking for their prey, and I'm like, these birds can't possibly be looking for prey. They've got to be stuffed full of plenty of junk from over there, and they're just coasting through the sky, just like, just enjoying it. You just kind of see them, and they're just like flying along, and they're just like floating on the wind. And I don't know, I feel like that would be kind of like a reward to be a bird like that, in the next phase of evolution or whatever. And I kind of feel that way in a number of different animals. I mean, you see horses running and just like, complete freedom, and as an animal, you're generally either everything's taken care of for you in the wild and you just have to find it, or B, you're domesticated and somebody just feeds you and waters you and brushes you and cleans you and does everything for you, and you're just like, I mean, I don't know. I am kind of like, okay, once you get through all the crazy crap and you've learned all the lessons, then you get to be an animal and just watch everyone else go through the crap, and they'll take care of you. I don't know. It'll be interesting to find. It'll be interesting to find out. I want to look at some of his other books and see if he ever talks about stuff like that. Oh, we're at the top of the hour already. I felt like we were kind of, I don't know, lollygagging through the day today, I guess. So, any final thoughts, guys? I need to. Yeah, I found it when I was listening to / reading the chapter last week. I was finding all kinds of points that we could talk about, and today I didn't have a chance to review it before I got on here. So, came on at the end of. Oh, are you guys talking about something else over there? Oh, right. Sorry. In the chat, I was just kind of catching up. We can wrap up for today.
Oops, sorry.
Sorry, I'll mute.
Going back again to what Sandy mentioned earlier, I listened to, well, as a matter of fact, I think I mentioned Jared Hewitt. He's one of my favorite energy healers, if you want to call him that. He's definitely a multi-dimensional person, and I think he claims to be Pleiadian, maybe Arcturian, I don't know. But he talks about Lyra, and Lyra is, I don't know what Lyra is. I know what I've heard people claim it to be and stuff, but whether that's true or not, I don't know. But what I do know is that that word has popped into my awareness on so many different occasions from so many just totally obscure and random, directions, that there's definitely something curious about that. And I know that of all the different healers and speakers and stuff whose programs I've listened to or been involved with, his stuff resonates more with me than anybody else's. And it seems to come to me when I'm most, when I'm at my lowest and I'm forgetting and I'm taking things too seriously, and I'm not going to my happy spot, his stuff pops in there and takes me to my happy spot. So it's very curious. Like I'm have no idea. I really don't. Like I'm open to pretty much any concept at this point, because I've done a lot of studying of a lot of different theories and beliefs and texts and channelings, and just, you'd be, my computer crashed this past week, and my hard drive is failing, and I'm trying desperately to get things backed up. It took me 4 days to get it to where it would even come on to do anything. And now I've been trying to, I went and got a USB thumb drive so that I could back up everything to that, and I got home and realized that it's not recognizing any of the USB ports or anything anymore. So I'm trying to download stuff to the cloud, but I have like something like 400 gigabytes of stuff on there, and like a lot of that is just about these subjects that we speak about on this program, And so my brain, I don't even know how my brain can hold any more information, and everybody else's brain too on the planet right now, because we just have access to so many things with the internet, and being able to connect with everybody else's mind, and what to believe of it and what not to believe, who knows. You just kind of have to go to what feels better. At least that's what I choose to do. I choose to go towards the things that make me feel better, because there's a lot of stuff out there that would totally make me feel like suicidal. I would just not want to be here at all. So I have to, and that's one of the reasons that we do this program, right? Is because everybody that's here kind of chooses, we want to feel as good as we can, and so we embrace the subjects that help us feel that way. And and this is one of them. And to me, the thought of there being other planets and it just seems ridiculous that we're the only ones in this vast universe, unless it's a hologram, and then that would totally explain it. But it's more comforting to me to believe that there's other planets and ancient civilizations, and then that's more comforting to me than that it's a hologram. Although sometimes, when things are looking bad, it's would be good if it was just a hologram, right? So I don't know, but I guess we'll move on to chapter 7 then for next week, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. And yeah, that whole idea, is it a hologram or not? Or, I really like watching shows that talk about space and all the different things they're discovering in space. And some of them, there was like one I watched a while back that was Neil Degrassi Tyson was the narrator of it, and he was talking about how big the universe was, and he kind of did this like, okay, here we are on Earth, and we think we're all big, and then you zoom out to this far, and this is the Milky Way, and you zoom out to this far, and it's the the galaxy beyond, and you keep zooming and zooming and zooming, and then he's talking about like the evolution of the universe on this like timeline, and our tiny little blip of existence on the Earth planet, and the evolution of the Earth is like this tiny itty bitty little tiny bit in the grand amount of time. It's like, we can't even fathom how long billions of years is in the evolution of the universe and how massively huge it is. And I like watching that kind of stuff because it helps me kind of, I don't know, in my opinion, take myself less seriously. It's like, here we are right here in this moment right here, and it seems so huge and enormous and overwhelming sometimes, and just the enormity of it. And yet then you can turn around and flip the coin over and look at how tiny we are in the vastness of the universe, and it's like, how much does that even really matter? It's like it matters 100% and not at all. It's like a kind of the flip side, or it's as important as it can be, and also not important at all, and so that's just a weird, I don't know, concept to kind of look at things. And it's just like the difference between what's important to me versus what's important to the person that's on the other side of the world. I mean, it's both equally important, and yet it's not important. So I don't know, just random thoughts and whatnot, but we get to talk about interesting stuff like that here. I love it. I was listening to this podcast this week, guys. It was so crazy because we've been talking about all these possibilities and cosmic meetings, and I know, Catherine, you've shared a few things on quantum physics and whatnot, and this one I happened to be listening to was about nutrition, and he was talking about the cosmic, what was it? The cosmic quantum nutritional something or other. And I was like, wait, what? He's talking about nutrition on a quantum level. And it was just really interesting. I'm going to have to send that podcast link to you, Catherine. I think you'll find it fascinating, some of the things that he was talking about as far as quantum nutrition. So anyway, I guess that's it for today. Yeah, a drop in the ocean versus the ocean in a drop. Yeah, exactly. It reminded me of, you see, I don't know if you guys seen Men in Black, that show, the TV show, and in one of the movies, they're protecting, I can't remember what they called it, but it ended up being this little orb thing that was hanging from the collar on the cat's collar, and it was this tiny little orb that looked like a trinket of some sort. And then they zoom in, and there's like a universe in there, and it zooms in, and it's more, and it's like a universe inside of yeah. I'm like, it's kind of like that, right? Or if you zoom all the way down into a cell, and you keep zooming, it's just bigger and bigger, and yet it's tiny, tiny. So we're going to, you know, just the amount of, it's like infinite down and infinite up. So I don't know. Does it make sense? Who knows? I don't know. It's fascinating anyway. All right, guys. Well, we're all just rambling today, so we wrap it up. Any final thoughts? Okay.
We're Friday.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed this conversation, guys, if you're out there watching, click like and then subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get a notification each time we upload another video. And sometimes we're more on point than others. Sometimes we just ramble like today, and that's just part of it. We're just all friends here hanging out, talking about random crap. So if you want to do that, come join us. We're over at mindsetmasterycollective.com. That is our Facebook group. You can jump in there and ask to participate with us on Saturday mornings. So with that, have a great, awesome, amazing week. And we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye.